Yep.
Absolutely. Well, let me go to this. You talked about the blinders. Okay, so we're going to go down that whole route of like, we have blinders on, and how can we potentially take our blinders off? Not always comfortable, but certainly a pathway to become that better version of ourselves. So that gets us into this whole conversation around feedback. And we were talking in the pre-interview chat about how we both know the Jack Canfield exercise. I don't even know what it's actually officially called by him. I've seen him do it. It's amazing when he does it. Do you want me, Rebecca, do you want me to just kind of quickly describe it?
You go ahead. Absolutely.
And then I want you to add, because every time I've done it for a group, I've even done it for like ex-Marine, like serious CEOs, and they were like, that's not going to work with my group. And it always works. It's amazing. Okay. So how it works in a super nutshell is that you have somebody that is receiving the feedback and you have somebody that's giving the feedback. And what the process is that person that's receiving the feedback wants to get from point A to point B. So it's really nice to do this kinesthetically in a room where you actually have a target. Sometimes I'll put like an X up on the wall, and you know that leader, that CEO, whatever, wants to get from where they're standing to that X. And then the person giving the feedback basically does a different, what they're doing is they're saying on course when that person steps towards that marks, that X marks the spot, and they're saying off course when they're not going in the right direction. So, okay. So there's so many different ways to do it. I'm going to pick 3 examples of what could happen, because there's all different kinds of things. I'll pick a couple of funny examples. Okay. So let's say the leader just starts to go, on course. And so the person's going on course, on course, on course. And so the leader's thinking, okay, like I'm grooving along, like I'm good. And then all of a sudden they go off in the wrong direction or not towards the target. And then the person says, off course, off course. Well, then that person goes, well, they just sit down and they go, you're so mean. Right. And of course, they don't make any further progress because they're whining and complaining. Right. So that is sort of like the complain response to feedback. And guess what? That leader never gets to their target, to their goal, to what they want to accomplish. So that's one example. Another example is, let's just say again, on course, leaders moving towards the target, on course, they go off target, and then it's off course. And all of a sudden they just clamp over their ears. They don't want to hear it. They just stop. And it's like, I am not taking this feedback. I don't want to hear it. So that's another one of these things. It's like, okay, I'm going to shut it out. Right. So does that get you to your goal? No. The last example, isn't as comical but it actually is the way that feedback is supposed to work. And what I love is that a lot of times we'll do this in a workshop environment where the whole leadership team is watching and they're coming up with their own principles that are customized to the organization about how feedback can not only be received, but given. And it's just this beautiful thing because it's like they have the answers within and we're just facilitating. But really, it's one of these beautiful things. It's like being a kid on an Easter egg hunt, and mom says like colder, colder. Oh, and the kid does it. They don't like freak out. They're just like, they want to get warmer. And so they listen to mom and dad. Oh, warmer, warmer, warmer. Oh, hotter, hotter, hotter. And they get there. And so that's kind of the third example is that feedback is given. It is given frequently enough. Like when mom and dad isn't saying anything, they're, like having their cocktails and looking the other way, like then the kid has no idea. So feedback is frequent. It's ongoing, and then it's received. It's, the ears are open, and then the kiddo, gets to the egg, and the CEO makes it to the target. So that's what I have seen in a very simplistic fashion. Dr. Rebecca, what would you like to add about that whole Jack Canfield exercise?
I'm just cracking up because it works the exact same way every time. I've seen the same thing. I've seen people sit down and just cross their arms, say, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is dumb. I'm not getting anywhere. Well, it's because you just got off course a little bit. Somebody was trying to help and your pride was hurt, or you felt like you failed. And so it's tapping into all of these ancient fears that really prevent us from getting the feedback that we really need. And the other thing I've seen is what's coming to mind is I had a participant do this once, and he's like, on course. And just, that was it. Like, he just waited and waited. And this person's just kind of like wandering along best they can. And it snapped to me. The story that came up was a joke that I heard once. Somebody said a wife was asking her husband, like, hey, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And I love you. I love you. I love you. And the husband's like, dude, I told you I loved you 10 years ago. I'll let you know if it changes. Right. And I think that's what we're doing with feedback a lot, is like, look, I told you last year, you're doing fine. I'll let you know if you're not on course. Meanwhile, we're, kind of feeling our way through and going blind. And that's really actually very scary when you're not getting that consistent feedback, that consistent, direction that, okay, I'm moving a little bit here, a little bit there. Oh, that's not right. Okay, that's okay. And the more we get that on a more consistent basis, the more we can feel comfortable when somebody says, oh, getting off course. It's no longer, of course, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Our brain doesn't leap to that terrified, stressed out state where we're in, having stress reactions, so the way I've seen this work is literally people go into a fight, flight, or freeze response, because they're stressed out. They've had an ability taken away from them. Like, they can't exactly see where they're headed. And now they're relying on others, which often leaders are not so good at listening and relying on others to guide them. And so now you're forcing them to sort of operate in that. And they either fight, like, they get angry or upset about it, or they flee. They're just going to go their own path, or they freeze. They sit down. They're like, nope, just can't do this. So I'm not going to try. So the more we can, and for me, the more we can give that feedback in an effective way, the more we can sort of correct a little bit along the way and get to the destination.
I love that. I'm going to throw in a mantra